All right, you guys, I'll get right into this. A couple weeks ago, I received a letter that changed my life. And here is that letter. I am reaching out to you today as a concerned citizen, deeply troubled by a historical episode that I believe holds critical lessons for us all. It's the story of the SS St. Louis, a story not just of refugees seeking safety, but of a catastrophic failure by the international community, including the United States, to uphold the values of humanity and compassion. In 1939, the SS St. Louis sailed from Hamburg with 937 Jewish refugees aboard, fleeing the escalating horrors of Nazi persecution. Their destination was Havana, Cuba, with hopes to eventually reach the United States, the land they believed to be a beacon of freedom and safety. However, upon reaching Havana, they were heartbreakingly turned away due to sudden changes in Cuban immigration policy, influenced by corruption and political pressure. This rejection was further compounded by the infiltration of Nazi ideology and propaganda into Cuba, which had begun to shape local attitudes and policies towards Jewish refugees. Anti-Semitic sentiments fueled by Nazi sympathizers within Cuba played a role in steering public and political opposition to the immigrants. The insidious influence helped sway the Cuban government to prioritize nationalist and protectionist sentiments over humanitarian considerations, ultimately turning away the passengers aboard the SS St. Louis. With nowhere else to turn, the refugees aboard the SS St. Louis set their sights on the United States. They had always seen America as a sanctuary of safety and freedom, a place where the persecuted could find shelter and start anew. Yet what they encountered was a cold indifference that mirrored the rejection they had just faced in Havana. The ship hovered near the Florida coast, so close that the passengers could see the glow of the American lights just beyond their reach, a cruel reminder of the freedom they longed for but could not touch. In desperation, the passengers sent a flurry of telegrams to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, pleading for a chance to disembark and find refuge on American soil. They hoped that their cries for help would be met with compassion, that this nation, known for its promise of liberty and justice for all, would come to their rescue. Instead, there was only silence. Wrapped up in its restrictive immigration policies and influenced by strong isolationist sentiments, the U.S. government chose to do nothing. As the SS St. Louis drifted along the Florida shoreline, U.S. Coast Guard ships patrolled the waters. Their presence was a stark and constant reminder that the refugees were not welcome. The Coast Guard patrolled against Holocaust survivors, refugees of literal Nazi persecution under the guidance of Adolf Hitler. It was a vivid demonstration of how far America was from living up to its ideals of being a refuge for the oppressed. Captain Gustav Schroeder, a German citizen, in spite of the United States' racist inaction, refused to abandon the passengers until a country would accept them. A few European nations reluctantly did. And of the 620 St. Louis passengers who returned to continental Europe, we determined that 254 passengers in Belgium, France, and the Netherlands died during the Holocaust. Most of these people were murdered in the killing centers of Auschwitz and Sobibor. The rest died in internment camps, in hiding, or in attempting to evade the Nazis. The stories of these passengers, like that of Max Lowe, are heart-wrenching, and they echo the painful consequences of America's failure to act. Max Lowe was one of the many thousands of Jews sent to Buchenwald concentration camp. He was beaten so severely by guards that afterwards he walked with a pronounced limp. Max was released from Buchenwald, and then him and his wife desperately tried to find a way out of Germany. By 1939, only wealthy Jews could leave, so they had to pay a steep fee to leave the country and the high payments to other countries that might be willing to offer them visas to let them in. Imagine Max escaping a German concentration camp just to be sent back to Europe by the United States of America. Max's story is horrific, and there's much more to it. As someone who believes deeply in the principles of justice and mercy, I find the historical episode not just sad, but infuriating. I am deeply troubled by Candace Owens' video platforming the incident of the Uss Liberty as a purposeful attack by, yes, Jewish Israelis on American military personnel, regardless of multiple reports claiming gross negligence as the main cause rather than nefarious intent. I write you this letter in hopes that you can confront Owens and her rhetoric and remember that the story of the SS St. Louis is one to be marked as a dark and shameful event fueled by anti-Jewish hate in America. Thank you. Look how easy it is to twist history and facts using ChatGPT to rewrite history regardless of the facts on the ground. Look how, when I sought out a story about America's racism towards Ashkenazi Jewish refugees fleeing Europe, I was able to craft it with a couple strokes of my keyboard. Today's lesson is one you need to jot down and remember, because I think it may be for the first time, somebody like me is calling you out. You may see me referencing my screen down below, and that is because I'm reading notes that I painstakingly wrote in response to Candace Owens' video. Candace, my name is Tal. I am a descendant of Mizrahi Jewish refugees from the Middle East. My family was violently kicked out and dispossessed from 4 different Islamic nations. These are nations that they called home for thousands of years before the rise of Arabs or Islam. My family inhabited these lands before the modern manifestation of Nazi-backed anti-Semitism, and surprisingly, yes, I am not an Ashkenazi Jew. I am not white, but even my family, my grandparents Miriam and Ezra, who were born and raised in Baghdad, Iraq, were affected by Hitler's Holocaust. You see, in the early 30s in Iraq and around the Arab world, Arabs and Muslims were openly embracing Nazi ideology. Mein Kampf being translated into Arabic, and even Arabic Nazi-esque Hitler youth groups were popping up in places like Baghdad. All this led to the Farhud, which took place in June 1941, a deadly pogrom against the Jews of Baghdad, Iraq, which sent ripples through the Iraqi Jewish community, which had existed in Babylon, in Iraq, for 2,000 years. This is how my family made it to Israel. My family didn't come with money or with riches. My family restarted their life in Ma'abarot, literal refugee camps in the deserts of Israel. Over 900,000 Jews from North Africa and from around the Middle East were ethnically cleansed by the Arab Muslims alongside actual Nazi ideology that manifested in Germany and Austria. 900,000 of us were ethnically cleansed to this land, and I am but one descendant living in Israel of those very people. That is our story. That is the story of the Mizrahi Jewish people. And we, contrary to your belief, make up a massive fiber of Jewish society here in Israel. Actually, we are a majority of the population of this beautiful nation, Israel. Yes, the same Israel that you've recently become an observer of genocide in. And if anybody is confused about Candace Owens' groundbreaking thoughts, I thought I would read you some that I've compiled here online, as her recent tirade of anti-Semitism has begun. Owens recently claimed that Judaism was a P-word-centric religion that believes in demons and child sacrifice. She also added that she is waking people up to the fact that P-words are in power. On August 17th, Owens posted a roughly 1-minute video to X in which she accused Israel of being behind the assassination of JFK and warned that criticizing Israel could result in being killed. Most likely talking about Jews, she also added that there is a group of people in this country, meaning America, who can just keep lying on people, trying to ruin people's lives, and there's no accountability, because then you just get to flip it and say, oh, it's anti-Semitism. It's the fact that when things happen on our soil and we find out that there is potentially Israeli involvement, we are basically hushed up and called crazy. Owens also promoted blood libel conspiracy, the false charge that Jews use the blood of Christian children for ritual purposes. That's an old classic, Candace Owens. She also said on a podcast, the reason why this particular episode is so detrimental to Zionism is because they have polluted American minds to believe that we must defend Israel out of morality and the evils of the Holocaust. She also added that if you accuse someone who is Jewish of having more allegiance to Israel than they do to America, you are going to be in trouble. And addressing Christians, she said, better be very careful if you're going to talk about how the Jews played any sort of role in the persecution of presumably Jesus. In some of these spaces, she went on to promote anti-Semitic conspiracy theories about the destruction of the Uss Liberty. And a few days ago, she dropped a bombshell interview with Phil Turney, survivor of the Uss Liberty attack by Israel. In a pinned comment on this video that gained over 4.5 million views, she expands on her original hour-long video and says, I went through a unique hell this year for simply learning the truth about America's friend and ally and refusing to shut up about it. I've always been stubborn like my granddaddy. He was a man who insisted on hard work, his unshakable faith in God, and consequently, truth. I have no doubt that I made him proud today with this episode. I choose truth over money and power and threats. Phil Turney, thank you for entrusting me with your story. You were a godsend at the end of this year because it made me reflect and realize that what I went through, in parentheses she writes, AIPAC's network of lies, smears, and financial threats was absolutely nothing compared to what you lived through. I am in awe of you. Thank you for providing me with the necessary perspective. You were so young, I don't know how you did it. If I live my life with a fraction of your courage, it will be a good life. To all the veterans, you are deserving of so much more than our government has given you. I am broken to realize that left and right we are surrounded by cowards. But I am hopeful because in the end, Christ wins. He has already won. It's always funny to me to just drag poor Jesus, the Jew, by the way, don't forget that Jesus was a Jew, into all these random anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. But let's get into the comments of Candace Owens, very balanced, very non-anti-Semitic. We would never want to open a platform for the anti-Semites, right? Because we're not anti-Semitic, we're just anti-Zionist, and it's not just about the Jews, even though with Candace Owens, I think it kind of is about the Jews. Let's just make sure that we're not being labeled as anti-Semites, right? Let's just take a gander through the comment section. I'm going to look through diversely, right? Just through the last couple minutes to hours of the video. That has 4.5 million views. Let's take a look here. First comment here by Terrence Oakes. Israel is the enemy. And Jay Lewis's response says, always has been. Okay, not so bad. Next comment by Gabe7120. Jews are not our friends. They have always hated us. They bought our politicians. It's a little more intense there, buddy. Then we got Bill Murphy, 6451. Wow, Zionism. The poor Jewish people and most Americans have been lied to about everything. The Arab world already knows the truth. A little pan-Arab Islamist revisionist history there. I like it. Harnudik 953 says, may the Jew be cursed in this world and the hereafter and brought politicians. There is a special place in hell for these crooks. Nah, they're not, I'd never say they're anti-Semitic. They're not anti-Semitic. It's just they only hate Zionists. EGH 181 ZOG Zionist Occupational Government. Julianne Howley says, I did a little research. Lyndon Johnson's ex-president after Kennedy, maternal ancestors were Jewish. Surnames Emmett and Perrin. The line of Jewish mothers can be traced back 3 generations in Lyndon Johnson's family tree. There is little doubt that he was Jewish. Delm Associate says, the unleavened bread, which means the Jews, is obsessed with world domination. They're even using China as a stooge. So many wars are fought by Christians against one another and Islam against Christians, all to further the unleavened bread agenda. I love it. As Christians and Muslims have persecuted Jews for a millennia, there's just no accountability. It's just the Jews who are in charge of it. Henry says, Jews don't believe in hell, probably because they call it home. Definitely not an anti-Semitic. Come on. Iqbam says, in the Holy Quran, the context is very clear about the Zionists. They have come on this planet for fasad, which means destruction and corruption on earth. Now over 8 billion people of planet Earth witnessing live genocide. Over 30,000 babies and 70,000 families destroyed and killed in front of everyone. Why? Because they have come for fasad on planet Earth. Let's just forget the 500,000 Syrians killed by Arab-on-Arab crime, or let's just forget about the 300,000 Lebanese killed by Arabs, or the 300,000 Yemenis killed Arab-on-Arab, or the 580,000 Somalis killed Arab by Arab, or the 50,000 Sudanese killed Arab by Arab just in the last year. Let's just put all that on the side. It's not important, especially if they're Muslims. Timor421 says, yes, they were. Israel's created by the Rothschilds and is a deep state-run country. Same people have controlled and run the U.S. for many decades. These are Khazarian Zionist mafia. They're killing Christians all over the world and control the Vatican as well to take out the Catholic Church. I'm praying justice on all those who have done the horrible things to our military and civilians throughout the years and all around the world. There's no anti-Semitic conspiracy theories happening in Candace Owens' community at all. Tirshin says Israel has always been a terrorist state. Retro Mama says Israel is the greatest threat to world peace, for sure. Like, definitely not the Arab world colonizing 400 million people and spreading Islamic racial supremacy in the Middle East, North Africa, and now in Europe and America. That's not a threat. It's Israel. Israel. Stoic Barbarian. We are an occupied nation. Israel owns both sides. It's time for Americans to stand up. And Maida says, finally, people are learning. It's not the Arabs, not the Muslims, it's Israel. That's my favorite one, because as somebody whose family was persecuted by, yes, the Arabs and the Muslims, we take no accountability. It's always been the Jews. And don't forget, to anybody who's watching this who is kind of on the fence, when they say Israel, they mean the Jews. When they say Zionists, they mean the Jews. And even if you want to argue at that point and say, no, not all Jews are Zionists, whatever, 95% of global world Jewry is Zionist. Over 50% literally required the state of Israel to exist in the modern day, like my family. Without Israel, we would have been killed. You see, Candace, we know about the tragic USS Liberty incident. Contrary to popular belief, us Jews, yes, even the gross brown Jews like me, we're not monsters or strange demonic creatures as you'd like to portray us. We are human beings, just like you. And like human beings, we make mistakes, many of them, over and over and over again. And we continue to do so every single day. I would be shocked if you were to walk the streets of Israel and ask people here if they support the IDF attacking American ships during the 6-Day War, and they reply yes. I would be shocked. It's because the people here in Israel love America. And we love America and everything the U.S. has done for us. That is a known fact. It's the sentiment on the streets here in Israel. And contrary to your belief that we are controlled by some Zionist, Jewish supremacist cabal of reptilian overlords that just want to take over the world, and us Mizrahi Jews or African Jews or any Jews of color are just the pawns in the game of the European Ashkenazi Jews, in reality, we Mizrahi Jews, we actually kind of run shit here in Israel. The culture, the music, the language, the fashion, the narrative, and God bless, from what it's looking like in the last year, the brutal war effort. Candace, as you cozy up to the Arab supremacist Islamic colonizers to this region, you know, the same ones who have decimated the indigenous Christian populations in this region for the last 1,000 years, us Jews can only sit and watch as you slowly morph into the female version of Kanye West. And yes, I know you and Kanye drank from the same bottle of crazy juice that brought you here, but I just want to address this. The only thing us Israelis, us Zionists, are actually in control of here in Israel is how much tahina we put in your hummus when we give it to you alongside the fluffiest pita you've ever had in your life. You seem to fundamentally not understand Israel or Jewish society at all. And as an American Jew, I want you to know that any interactions you may have had with this singular stream of Jewish lawyers and doctors and accountants in America don't represent our entire group of people. And in reality, we couldn't be less uniform in our opinions and missions in life. I mean, literally all we do is fight. That's all we do is argue and disagree. We are about the least cohesive group of people on the planet. We have a whole book called the Talmud, which we hold as our second holiest book, which is literally just a book of arguments. Thank you to my little reptilian Zionist for helping out with this video. I'm going to put him back in his cage. But you see, the big difference between us and, let's say, the Arabs of this region is we don't kill each other over our disagreements. And while many of us have the most disgusting opinions on one another, when push comes to shove, we help each other out and we support each other. We act as a family unit. For example, when the October 7th war broke out, I was a travel vlogger. I was making happy-go-lucky travel videos around the world. That's what I did for 10 years. I dropped everything. I dropped everything when I formulated that I was going to do this, and I committed my life to protecting Israel. And how many people in the Jewish world have done exactly the same thing? Risked everything, risked life and limb to come out as advocates for Israel. How many young people in this country dropped everything they were doing, their careers, their school, just to protect our nation that was under attack by 7 different Arab armies again in 2024. I made roughly $20,000 advocating for Israel this year. After expenses, living in one of the most expensive countries in the world, I walked away with about negative $5,000 of my yearly income. That's how much money I made. Negative $5,000. I lost $5,000 in this year defending Israel. I made below of the bottom of the minimum wage. But you know who supported me in this year? You know who paid my rent? You know who fed me? You know who bought me coffees and joined my Patreon? It was Jews. Jews from all over the world, and of course the amazing allies of Jewish people in Israel from all over the world. Not the Israeli government, no donors, no cabal, just people, family, seekers of truth, people who wanted to know what the actual truth was on the ground in this country. That's who supported this Zionist's work. It's very easy to try and format the horrific story of the USS Liberty into one of treason and backstabbing by Israel towards America. It's easy to find the anti-Semitism wherever you look for it, but in reality, much like today, the same Israelis that attacked the USS Liberty on that dark day and killed incredible US service people were simply that, Israelis. A group of refugees thrown out from various nations to the most hostile dot on the map under constant threat by the world around them coming in all different shades and colors and backgrounds, trying to make sense of it all, trying to survive, but ultimately making many, many mistakes along the way. Multiple documents, which I will link below, investigating the matter, have concluded that no. Unfortunately, as much as you'd like to believe, Candace, the evil Israeli Jews, in fact, do not have an anti-America agenda. I'd honestly think that somebody with more than 4 brain cells would be able to conclude that, considering this type of event has only happened once in history and never again, and was clearly presented as an accident, and that the US and Israeli militaries have both gained immensely from cooperating one with another, I would think that that would be proof enough. But I fear not, Miss Owens, so I guess I'll spell it out for you as if you were a 4-year-old. Israel love America because America protect Israel. Israel trying to be only democracy in Middle East. Arabs making that very hard because Arabs generally anti-Semitic. And yes, I'm allowed to say that because Arabs consider me an Arab Jew, even though I am absolutely not Arab. Remember, Candace, Babylonian Jews, that of which I am, predate the idea of Islam or Arabs by a good 2,000 years. Going back to the ship. What you are looking for, Candace, can't be found in the stories of the USS Liberty and the traumatic events that the crew there went through. It can't be found at the bottom of the Jews did 9/11 rabbit hole either. I implore you to jump into the deep end. What you are looking for exists far and wide across the Arab Muslim world. Take a trip down to Afghanistan. Take a trip to Syria these days. Hell, go to Palestine. Go to where Jesus was born in Bethlehem. Go ask the average Islamist about your Christian faith. Ask him about your skin color. And tell me how quickly you'll be chased out wearing a hijab and considering Judaism, you know, the religion of Jesus, as a legitimate religious venture for yourself. I started this video with the story of the SS St. Louis, and on the Holocaust Encyclopedia online, I found this regarding the turning away of the ship full of Holocaust refugees by the USA. Quotas established in the Immigration Act of 1924 strictly limited the number of immigrants who could be admitted to the United States each year. In 1939, the annual combined German-Austrian immigration quota was 27,370, and it was quickly filled. In fact, there was a waiting list of at least several years. U.S. officials could only have granted visas to the St. Louis passengers by denying them to thousands of German Jews placed further up on the waiting list. Public opinion in the United States, although ostensibly sympathetic to the plight of refugees and critical of Hitler's policies, continued to favor immigration restrictions. Yet the way that I framed the letter demonized the United States of America, making it out to seem like America wanted to get those Holocaust refugees aboard the ship killed by sending them back to the Holocaust. And while yes, sending them back was wrong, it was absolutely wrong, the intention of the United States of America, as it seems, was not to murder Jews who were seeking refuge. It was negligence, a bad decision, a mistake that ended up ending the lives of hundreds of Jews who had hope in our country, the United States of America, to save them. As an American Israeli Jew, I tell you, I have immense pride in being an American. I'm grateful my parents emigrated from Israel to America, and I'm grateful to have been raised with American values. I love the United States of America to death. And while I can be critical of our nation, like most of us should be and are, I have so much respect for the USA and for the people who lay down their lives to protect the USA and keep me and my family safe. And I can say that unequivocally as an Israeli and as an American, as a dual national of both nations. And while I don't currently live in the USA, and I haven't for a while, I will always love America. And in the same exact beat, I'll always have those same feelings about Israel as well. My other home, the other nation that protects me and loves me, and that most of my extended family lives in, and the one where I truly feel safe no matter what. As an American Israeli, I can see the cooperation of my two nations on things like the Iron Dome missile defense system funded by the US, developed by Israel, and now that technology being brought back to protect Americans on US soil. Or Qualcomm and the Technion collabing on advancing mobile networks for both America and for Israel. Or Intel investing in developing its technology in Israel to literally change the world we live in and the devices we use every single day for communication, or probably even watching this video. Or our joint counterterrorism operations of America and Israel working together against radical Islamic terrorism. And it's not that America invading the Middle East was the sole reason for Arabic Islamic supremacist terrorism. No. It's because that terrorism has existed for 1,000 years in this region, before the creation of the United States of America. And America is the only country who has the genuine intention to end it, alongside its only ally in the Middle East capable of doing so. You see, what happened aboard the USS Liberty is not representative of the Israeli outlook or relationship with America. And in the same exact beat, what happened along the SS St. Louis, where America rejected Holocaust refugees who ended up in Israel, a lot of them, ended up living their lives in Israel, Israel ended up protecting them, not America. That's not representative of how America feels towards Israel or Jews. And Candace Owens, it hurts my heart to know that you went down this rabbit hole, to know that you feel like you've been somehow wronged by Jewish people, or that whatever you're going through in your head has made you feel like Jewish people are your enemy. But I implore you, I really do. And I don't know if you've ever been. I don't know if you've ever been to Israel, but I implore you, come and visit. Even with all the fucked up things you've said about our country, come and visit. I will have a list of influential, non-influential Jews of Ashkenazi background, of Ethiopian background, of Mizrahi background, just like me, who will take you on and have you experience the true Israel. Not what you believe you're seeing. Not what you believe you've been fed by the Zionist reptilian people. Let me show you the real Israel, because this is what we do as Jews. This is what we do. This is our track record. When you shit on us, we'll hand you the olive branch and we'll say, come, let me show you. Let me show you the truth. Come, little idiot. Come, little stupid. Let me show you what you don't actually know. But if you continue to fester in this, if you continue to dive deeper, it's not that the threats that you're feeling against Jewish people are not valid, but if you keep fucking with the same group of people over and over again, and you keep diving deeper into the anti-Semitic conspiracy theories that, yes, unfortunately, get us killed. They get us Jewish people killed. Somebody like me will become your enemy. I'll dispel the bullshit that you speak. I will do that because it's my duty to do so. And yeah, maybe there'll be a bunch of white colonial Ashkenazi Jewish Nazis alongside me doing the same thing. But I promise you, I'll get you the same amount of Ethiopian and Mizrahi brown and black colored Jews to come and speech the same exact thing against you. Will come do the same exact thing against you. That's the thing about Jews. We work as a unit. Not a well-flowing, well-oiled machine unit, but we do work as a unit. You have an opportunity here. Olive branch. I'm sending it to you. I'll facilitate the whole thing. I'll make sure I'll get the right people. You'll have the whole shebang. Come join us. Come see who we actually are on the ground. Then formulate your opinions. And don't do it with some bullshit organized tour by one of these millions of Jewish organizations who are dying to have you. Come to me. Come to Abu Baklawa. Let me take care of you, Candace Owens. I take you to the right places. I even take you to meet Palestinians. I even do it for you. I do it for you so you can meet the real genocide. I take you to meet the Arabs of the Golan, the Afro-Bedouins of the South. I take you to meet everyone and anyone you want to meet. I take you to Nazareth. I take you to Bethlehem. But don't say you don't have the offer to know. You now have the offer on the table. The truth is there for you to be able to grab and for you to be able to understand. The truth. I'm not paid by anybody. I'll show you my bank accounts. I'll publicly put them online. I'll show you everything you want to know that I am not influenced or being paid by anybody to say anything. It's just the truth. Come. You have the opportunity. But I know you won't. You're having too much fun and you're making too much money. As opposed to somebody like me, who's genuine, who's not making any money doing this. Hopefully one day I can, but we're not at the moment. Want to be a part of the amazing people that are supporting and fighting anti-Semitic rhetoric of people like the amazing Candace Owens? Join me on Patreon for exclusive content. Join my Discord below or drop me a donation on Buy Me a Coffee or PayPal so I can keep doing this important work. Thank you all. I love you long time and goodbye.